I'll just put a caption.
I can do the introduction.
Okay, go ahead and tell us what you're doing here and who you are and what's going on in England.
Okay, so I'm Kerry Abel. I'm the chair of Abortion Rights. We're an organisation that is a merger of Abortion Law Reform Association, which was set up in the 1930s, that got the 67 Act in place, who campaigned for the law, and also National Abortion Campaign that was set up in the 70s to defend. It was almost necessary to immediately defend the legislation, and we've been doing that since the 70s. At the moment, we're counter-protesting an organisation that is American-led, March for Life. This is their one chance in Britain to join together all of the anti-choice groups under one umbrella, and they have one day a year out in London, and we feel that we represent the majority of British views that are pro-choice, and so we counter-protest that. But we do that with our speakers, journalists, campaigners, feminists, and they talk about why abortion is healthcare, why it's necessary, why it should be safe, free, legal, and importantly at the moment accessible. We need to make sure that it's a normal procedure. 1 in 3 women will have an abortion in their lifetime, same figure for the US as in the UK, and so we feel like we need to make it as easy as possible and shame-free.
And so can you talk a little bit about the prosecutions, the investigations, and it would really surprise American audiences and activists and voters what's going on in England.
So we were really worried when Roe fell, because we knew that the antis were emboldened over here and we didn't quite know how it would translate. It seems like that we have a different setup in our British Parliament, and we have the law pretty stable, and the majority of Parliament are in favour of it. So it hasn't been rolled back since 1967 when it was introduced. But what seems to be happening is the antis are using the courts and using an ancient law from 1861, passed when Queen Victoria was on the throne, the Offences Against the Persons Act, to prosecute women for having abortions outside of the 67 procedure laws. So that means if they're outside of the time limit, which is 24 weeks in Britain, or if they do it by getting pills by themselves and not going through a doctor. So this has been the case, particularly over lockdown. And even though this law wasn't used at all, it's really upped in the 2010s, 2020s. So the first prosecution, there's been 6 prosecutions now, and the first one, the woman did do a little bit of jail time before it was revoked. But they're taking people who aren't organised, who don't have a lot of resources or legal coordination through the courts, and they're we don't think it's in the public interest, and we think it's a really bad way of prosecuting women who were just trying to deal with the situation they were faced at the time and manage their own abortions, which we believe should be women's rights.
So 6 prosecutions?
So far 6 prosecutions, but the people in abortion providers in the UK tell us that they've had requests for information for up to 100 other cases, so we don't know how many are coming forward. And I think it's our job to put pressure on journalists, the media, politicians, people in the legal sphere to stop these unnecessary and not in the public interest court cases for women taking into their own hands their own bodies and their own healthcare.
And from what I understand, one woman served 18 months in prison.
She didn't do the whole 18 months. I think the amount of months.
A few years ago, there's nothing to do with that.
Oh, okay. I don't know. It would have been something outside of the current law, which is the reason why we need to make sure that we have decriminalised abortion. We believe that, and this was said in 1967, when they passed the law, the chair of ALRA, Diane Munday, wouldn't let the campaigners have full glasses of champagne, because she said they'd only done half the job, so they could only have half a glass of champagne. What we'd done back then in 1967 was allow abortions to be legal in certain circumstances, and one of the circumstances was the doctor had to approve it, and people had to be able to tell their story eloquently enough to the doctor. And what she said, even at the time in 1967, is women should be able to have abortions based on their decision, and that they shouldn't have it gate-kept. So we believe that abortion should be decriminalised, and that the circumstances that they choose should be how they go forward and have safe and legal abortions. And the pills that more than 50% of abortions are carried out using the medication abortion pills, and there's the circumstances in which they're allowed to take them have been loosened a little bit, so they are allowed to take them at home now, pills by post. But we think that that should be made much more accessible, and that women should have the choice about what kind of abortions they have, and they shouldn't have to go through the hoops that the law currently sets up.
And so for the next year, I heard till Easter, you hope Parliament does something. What do you expect to happen until now and Easter?
I don't understand what's happening in Easter.
Well,